From nearly the very beginning, humankind has been very adept at separating itself into two categories. You've got us and you got them. For me, some of the us include those who are big fans of the Cincinnati Reds. Them would be those who are fans of the Cardinals or the Cubs. Us would be those who appreciate the cinematic genius of the movie Jaws. Them would be those who just don't get it. You know, a lot of us-them divisions, categories like I just described are pretty harmless. They're just basically preferences or opinions or surround team spirit. However, we know that us-them categories don't or aren't limited to just those kinds of superficialities. And we are currently experiencing what happens when the us-them divide goes much deeper to the point where we forget that we are all, as Charles Dickens put it, fellow travelers to the grave. Or we justify, ignoring, denying the reality that every other person is a fellow image bearer, created in the image of God. And for that reason, every person is of inestimable worth. To paraphrase C.S. Lewis, there are no ordinary persons, only immortals. And that includes every single person that you might be tempted to put into the category of them. Well, certainly, the first century knew what us-them divides were all about. That was the world that Jesus was born into, growing up as a Jewish young man. For many Jews of his day, the them included the Romans. The Romans, the Jews despised these foreign oppressors who would come in to occupy their land. For many Jews, the them consisted of the Samaritans. For hundreds of years, there was this great racial divide between Jews and Samaritans over unresolved conflict. For many Jews, the them also included people who had leprosy. They were to be excluded, kept on the margins of society. And for many Jews, the them also included sinners, those people who had made mistakes that made them worthy of constant shaming by others in society. Well, that was the world into which Jesus was born. But unlike the rest of humanity, Jesus did not see through a lens of us and them. And that's why it shouldn't surprise us to see Jesus ministering to a Roman soldier in need. It shouldn't surprise us to see Jesus engaging in a deep conversation with a Samaritan woman. It shouldn't surprise us to see Jesus touching lepers as he healed them. And it shouldn't surprise us when we see Jesus loving on and actually enjoying the company of sinners. Jesus was often criticized for circumventing the us-them divides of his day. But that was the essence of his ministry. For Jesus came into this world to broach the one divide that is at the core of every other divide. The divide between you and your Creator, between all of us and our Creator. Because sin and evil run through the middle of every human heart, separating us from the holy God. Jesus came to bridge that gap, to bridge that divide. The Bible tells us in Colossians 1, once you were alienated from God and you were enemies with Him in your minds, which was shown by your evil actions. But now He has reconciled you by His physical body through death to present you before God as a people who are holy, faultless, and without blame. With that divide healed, all other divisions disappear. We are not only reconciled to God through Jesus Christ, but even to one another. For as the Bible also tells us, the Messiah has made things up between us so that we're now together on this. He tore down the wall we used to keep each other at a distance. If you are in Christ, we no longer see others through a lens of us, them. No, we see every other person as fellow image bearers of God, who He loves so much that He sent His Son Jesus into the world to die to bring them home. John 3:16. If Jesus overcame every division, every wall, to love every person, can I call myself a follower of Jesus Christ if I'm not willing to do the same? Can you? Fix your eyes on Jesus.